Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. Today's Friday, April 7th, and we're so glad to have you all here with us this morning. As we usually do, we'll go over a few of the topics that are going on in Lake Havasu City, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have as well. So on any of the things that we covered or anything else that might be on your mind. But today we do have a special guest that's going to join us after Jess and I give an update. We have Mark from Republic Services who's going to talk about recycling and those types of things and answer any questions that citizens have in regard to that. So we'll start with the Downtown Catalyst Project. Just as a little bit of background and history, the Downtown Catalyst Project is on McCulloch and Quarrio. The City Council purchased that in 2016 in response to the city's involvement with the America's Best Community Competition, which was a competition that Frontier Communications put on for rural communities across the United States. Over 350 communities entered into the competition. Lake Havasu City continued to progress through the competition and at the end won a $2 million grand prize to help implement our revitalization plan that was created from that competition. The revitalization plan brought together citizens from all walks of life in Lake Havasu City. They're representing citizens at large, every civic group, fraternal group, social group, economic development agencies, together for one Saturday for about 7 hours at ASU. And together came up with 5 pillars of change. And those were economic development and job creation, education and talent supply, tourism and place development, water, and community engagement. And so that was the plan that we won the money on. And then the money was to be spent on 3 different projects that people could earmark and see what was happening with those winnings. And that was also developed through another public process. Once the money was won, everyone got together and said, all right, what should we spend the money on? They looked at the revitalization plan and they came up with a Downtown Catalyst Project, which is the parcel down on McCulloch, an environmental learning center, which is moving in a planning stage right now, but it basically would be everything water related to the ecology, the health, the safety of water. And then the third project was a co-work location. The co-work location is now known as Nomadic. It's getting ready to celebrate its grand opening very, very soon. It's right behind Hawkins Sanchez Jewelers. And it's that taller building right behind that down in the McCulloch area. And then just adjacent to that is now the Downtown Catalyst Project. So just I'll let you talk about the Catalyst Project, what it is and what we're intending to do with it.
Yeah, so the intent with the Downtown Catalyst Project in that area, and by the way, we need a new name. So anybody that's got ideas on what to name that area, Springbrook, McAndrew, Curio Place, and then all those types of things in the Downtown Catalyst Project. So if we need some help and assistance, maybe to be creative with what we should call that area. The intention of the development of that space is to augment and enhance the existing uses on that site, which is there's some day recreation. People kind of show up and kind of enjoy it. But for the most part, we have a number of special events, big and small, that occur on that parcel throughout the year. So what can we do to design improvements that would to supplement and enhance that experience for those that are providing special events? So there's a lot of electrical runs that are there, so people can show up, plug in, don't have to bring their generators, walkways for pedestrians to access that area, shade areas, lighting, a little space for a stage, those types of improvements that are tied to it, some landscaping, making sure that there's access. We'll talk a little bit about maybe a tie-in to the Pima Wash parking lot so that there's a direct connect. There's a wash that's in the way, so do we do something with a small pedestrian bridge that crosses that? Do we do something with maybe a culvert area that flattens that area and makes it seamless to walk back and forth from that parking area? So those are some of the things that, as far as the design of that space. A big part of that, too, is just the grading. If you're on McCulloch and you're walking down the street and you want to access right onto that lot, it's a little bit of an uphill climb, right? So if we can grade that, make it level and make it seamless for people to enter that area back and forth, that would be a real nice benefit as well, too. Special thanks to Mike Keene and our Parks and Rec department for leading that effort. And then thanks to Anthony Kozlowski and Holly Morin and the grant team. at the city. We were able to identify a grant. We're checking 2 of the 3 boxes, and it's looking really good for a $1 million grant from state parks through the federal government that would help us build the vision of the council and the community for that area as well too. So a lot of good things happening in that direction.
So the intent all those years ago was for it to be a downtown gathering space, so a place that people could go, gather, mill about, go up and down the street between the different eateries and shops and the things like that. And also as ASU's enrollment grows, it'll be a place for students to be able to gather in that area that's close to the campus. And as just mentioned, we have $1 million of the $2 million grand prize money was allocated to that project. The additional $1 million grant that we're very, very close to receiving is also part of that. And then the discussion we just had recently at the council, Jess is putting together and preparing the starts of the budget for next year. And the council gave direction to plug in a number of $2.9 million for the project in total. So $2 million of grant funds, $900,000 of general fund budget monies. Of course, council still has to make the final decision on that, but that's just what the master plan will be from a budget perspective in that downtown area. So we're going to take questions at the end, Sandy. So I know it's at the end we'll take all the questions you have, but just so people can hear at home. So we'll now move on to the utility rate study. The utility rate study, we're probably in the first quarter of the utility rate study. Just again, as a little bit of background to what we're doing here is Mr. McCulloch, when he first developed Lake Havasu City, he created an irrigation and drainage district. He did this by creating a sod farm out on the island. And so what that allowed for to happen was a taxing mechanism to help build the first sewer and water infrastructure for Lake Havasu City. So the very first land tracks down on Smoke Tree and Swanson and those areas have been on sewer since day one. Then in the early 2000s, Lake Havasu City sewered the entire community. And as the community continued to grow, there was an IDD tax, a property tax that every property owner paid. And that generated about $5.7 million to the water fund. And with the expiration, so going back to 1978 when we incorporated, the IDD was set to expire with the incorporation of Lake Havasu City by a vote of the people. However, when we incorporated in 1978, there was still some debt that the IDD owed. And because of that debt that was owed, they had to continue to keep the IDD intact. So councils long before ours would refinance that debt because it contributed $5.7 million to the water fund, keeping rates lower. But now the debt's expired. There was nothing else that we could do. So we looked at maybe creating another district. We looked at creating a couple of other mechanisms, and nothing really worked in that way. So the IDD expired last year. Everybody should have seen a property tax decrease, any property tax bill this last year to the tune of $5.7 million throughout the community-wide. But then that did leave a $5.7 million gap on our water rates. And how are we going to do that? So Jess and his team went through and identified 10 years of capital improvement projects. What are we going to need to ensure that the safety and efficiency of our system from both water and wastewater is achieved? And what is it going to take to do that from a rate perspective? And then how much do we need to pay? The water system and the sewer system is a nonprofit, so we don't make any money, but it's what we call an enterprise fund. So the monies that are collected by the users go to pay for the operations of it. So it's neutral to what that is. So it's just a nonprofit system. So you have to collect enough to cover the cost of all of these things. So we took a look at it in 2020, and when we did that, we identified a rate structure. That rate structure wasn't working for some of our citizens, most notably those that lived in multifamily housing dwellings. Their rates went up considerably because of the base charge. And so that was implemented in the summer of 2020. We then came back in October of 21. Came back in October and we revised the rate structure, knowing that it wasn't going to cover the cost, so we were going to be deficit spending. We knew that we were going to be doing that with taking a look at 1 year of service. So with this new rate structure, let's take a look at one full year of service because we have seasonality built into our water and wastewater system, just like we do with visitation that comes through our community. So we have high water use months because of visitation, and our seasonal citizens that live here only part of the year, either summer or winter, using the system. And so let's take a look at that full seasonality, what it does to the rate structure, and then we'll come back and we will take a look at how we stop deficit spending and set a rate structure that is fair and equitable to all. That's what we're doing right now. So we had the first update to the City Council about a month ago of where they're going with that. They're doing citizen engagement, and they'll be coming back to Council shortly.
Later this month.
So at the end, the second meeting of April?
Hoping for the second meeting in April. We might bleed into, we want to do, as part of this process, too, before we're coming back for council, we want to do a citizen engagement and talk to the citizens and kind of get some feedback and then bring that information back to council. So it'll either be the second meeting in April this month or the first meeting in May.
Yeah, a lot of the conversation at the council was focused around water conservation. So obviously with the drought that we're experiencing, although so grateful for the snow that is happening in Colorado this season, was how do we look and focus on water conservation through the rate structure, and then how do we also focus on infrastructure through the rate structure, ensuring that we have the resources available for that, and then how do we have it have the least impact to the ratepayers, so the citizens that are using it. Those were kind of the three overarching goals that council gave. Some of those goals compete with each other, so water conservation and how do we make it the least impact on the users, that those are competing interests. So you can do certain things to protect that, but then people use more water, or you can do things on water conservation, people use less water, and then they save money. So they're competing interests, we understand that, but they have a hard job ahead of them to be able to put all of these analysis together so we can do what's right for the citizens at large throughout our community. We'll talk about the road work. We have a lot of road work going around town, so you probably are getting stopped in some way as you make your way through. We have Lake Havasu Avenue is coming towards the end of Lake Havasu Avenue from Acoma to Kiowa. This area, by the end of next week, should be traversable with pavement, and you can get in and out and have 2 lanes of traffic. I drove it yesterday, and I was only able to do 1 lane of traffic heading south. So hopefully real soon, but all the equipment was there for them to start paving, which will be fantastic. Yeah, not the only stuff with the paving that was doing on that area. We also had a lot of underground infrastructure that we were dealing with in that area. So that area has been a little bit clumsy in the fact of the impact to our citizens, the businesses in that area, and of course it's a main artery if you're not going to use Highway 95 and use Lake Havasu Avenue. But by the end of next week, we should be in a good spot. We've had some really great news on Highway 95. So through the help of Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci, and at the time Representative Cobb, they were able to get money allocated from the general fund from the state of Arizona to repave Highway 95. And so this is Highway 95 all the way from Sarah Park all the way up to I-40, which is desperately needed for our community. The highway is in just a terrible condition. They fought for us and they got that money, and we're doing really good things with it. We got our initial, ADOT went out for bid on the project, received 3 bids, and the low bidder is actually under the allocated funds. So we're in a really good position. We can begin doing that. So it's been a long time that we've been able to say that we're coming under the estimate of what the funds are with just the crazy supply chain issues we've been dealing with. So really excited about Highway 95. But I just need to remind everyone, road construction is frustrating, it's cumbersome, and it's going to be really difficult when we do Highway 95 because it's such a main artery for our community. I was driving the highway, which is very unusual for me because I do not like the highway at all. And I drove it yesterday because I had to go to Kingman, and I literally, there was so much traffic on it, it was shocking to me that over at the Kiowa intersection, it was backed up all the way past the entrance into the credit union entrance right there. I couldn't even believe it. So it's going to be really, really difficult when the road construction actually happens and starts. But when that does occur, we'll do it as efficiently as we can. We'll communicate with our citizens and the users of the highway to find ways that we can all use it in a way that is going to be beneficial for us in the long term. I don't know if you have anything else to add on road stuff that we're working on.
No, but the Highway 95, I think that's really important because what we know right now is that ADOT received three proposals on that project, as well as 3 proposals on the Bullhead project for Highway 95 and the state funding that's tied to that. The good news for both projects and the best news for Havasu, right, and for us is that all 3 bids came in under the engineer's estimate at ADOT, which is fantastic. That means that's doable, right? So we look at projects like this and things that happen, and there's going to be some things that could block or allow us to progress. And if these bids came in higher than the budget, then they have to reduce scope and go through another process, delay the project. All 3 bids came in under, so now ADOT's doing what they do and identifying which contractor to utilize, get under contract, and then schedule that project. It's an ADOT project out of the city's control, but if I had to guess, we're probably looking at maybe a kickstart in the fall sometime now, would be my best guess. And I heard some conversations, and again, this is just very, very early on, and most of it's just rumors, so I'm here to spread them. But this could be like about a 8 to 12 month construction time period that's out there. So keep that in mind. So we're all very eager for construction to take place. But if it goes quick, they just shut the whole 95 down and they can get it done in like 2 months, right? But they have to allow for access, business access, resident access, and so forth. So that kind of expands the timing, expands a little bit of the pain. But the good news is that the leadership with Senator Borelli and Leo Biasucci helped secure these funds, and we're grateful for them and can't wait to see the end result.
Excellent. All right, we'll talk about the budget. We're right in the middle of the budget season right now. Jess and his team have been meeting over the last month and a half or so for doing the deep dive. So they work on the budget for a long time, started around December, but a deep dive over the last month and a half or so. And it's coming before council next Thursday for the first discussion about the budget. That's Thursday at 9 a.m. Here in the council chambers, and we'll talk about and get an overview of the budget as a whole, some of the priorities that the council has already given feedback on through our annual planning session, and also talk about our capital improvement plan and program for 5 years. So that'll be the first discussion kind of as the budget's coming together. We certainly welcome all of our citizens to join us during those conversations as we go through the budget, but we have some priorities that we've been working on through conversations with our citizens, such as infrastructure projects, water projects, road projects, and those are the types of things that you can expect to see and hear more of as we continue to have these conversations about the budget going forward. Jess, I know you've been deep in it. I don't know if you have anything you would like to share outside of the hearing next week.
So we have the work session on Thursday at 9 a.m. So encourage the public to attend and learn more about the budget. What will take place on Thursday will be two large topics, both regarding the budget. One is just going to be kind of an overview of where we are from a financial perspective, what that looks like. The budget that we have in place, what's it looked like so far for this year, and then a kind of sneak peek into next year's budget in terms of financial standing, looking at some of the broad, big picture items that are going to impact our budget moving forward, whether that's from a personnel perspective, from a healthcare perspective, from some of the other things that we're seeing that might cause some increases within the budget. But there's also some good news. As you alluded to with some of the supply chain issues and so forth, our CIP project the last couple of years, we're adding 25% plus to the cost of all of our projects, and we're seeing that taper down, so some of the costs of some of these projects are decreasing. Although over this last week, we're hearing about the price of oil and by the barrel, and that's increasing, and that will impact fuel costs. But overall, I think we're doing a pretty good job of being able to remain under budget with the estimates that we have with some of these projects. So that's good news, because in this budget and last budget, we've had to take an approach, especially when it comes to on the water and sewer side, is that we got 3 projects, but and they're all 25% more than what we expected to pay. So you'd have to take a little bit out of one project to pay for the other 2 projects. So moving forward, hopefully we can get back to where we're doing all 3 of those projects. A lot of conversation, a lot of discussion. From my perspective, we're looking at investments into our infrastructure, taking care and maintaining what we have. From an infrastructure, roads, parks perspective, our facilities, including the building we're in with the police department, is in dire need of some improvements. Most of those HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and other that are just the core of a building that you need to take place. We'll have some conversations maybe about fire and what the operations and maybe a facility looks like from that perspective. And one of the things that I challenge the city team, and the council challenges me, is what type of decisions can we make today that 5 years, 10 years from now, we can look back and say that was a smart decision. We invested in what we had to either reduce costs or enhance the service that we have, and watch that grow from that perspective. So that's the lens that the city team looks at the budget this year, and trying to do the best we can to invest back into some of the existing infrastructure and facilities that we have. You go back to we're still climbing back out of the recession. That was a long time ago, back in the cuts that were made in the city did, and they had to, and it was a very, very wise decisions that we made as a city. Going back to 2011 timeframe or so. But when you have a vast reduction in the amount of dollars that the city has, and I think there was a $12 million cuts over the course of 2 years. The first thing that happens when cuts of that regard happen is training goes away, and facility maintenance goes away. Those are the 2 easy ones. No more vehicles, and let's try to slide by as long as we can without vehicle replacement, without maintaining our facilities. But now we're still paying the price of trying to dig ourselves out of that hole. We right now, still as a city, we are, for the most part, and we've made a lot of great progress in the last year or 2 about trying to get ahead of some of our maintenance. We're waiting until an AC unit breaks in July at the PD, and then we scramble and pay far more than we need to at that point to get it replaced. So we're investing in trying to maintain and our AC units and other facilities from that regard. So fleet maintenance is another area that I'll be recommending an investment to take place from that regard. We have some new fleet when it comes to fire and some of our engines, and we're sending some of those up to Henderson to get worked on. So of course I see that and go, okay, what training do we need? What investment does it need to take place to make sure that those repairs are taking place in Havasu at our yards at a much better cost than what we'd see elsewhere. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek, probably more than we wanted to hear.
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, next Thursday at 9 a.m. here in this room at the council chambers, please join us in the conversation about the upcoming budget. Another project that's been a priority of Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci is a second bridge. And so what they were able to secure last year from the general fund from the state of Arizona was monies to do a study for a second bridge across to the island. But not just a study for the bridge itself, but allowing us to master plan what the island could be. So I know not a lot of people like to hear this, but this is the truth is that island is only probably a quarter developed right now of what potentially could be. When Arizona became a state, the federal government gave lands to the state, and it's a state trust. The state trust has about 12 beneficiaries. Most notably is the K-12 system. And so the state land department is charged with getting the highest value of the land. So just highest value, not highest and best use, just the highest value. So that's obviously shoreline frontage, and that's all owned by the state trust land. And so eventually somebody is going to buy that from the state trust at a very handsome price, and they're going to have do something to get a return on whatever that is. So that's many decades into the future, but we need to plan now for that and what that looks like. And so the study is going to allow us to plan that, plan usage of vehicle traffic, what that would entail based on folks going, living there or going to recreate over there or to retail over there, whatever that is going to be. But it also then will do some analysis on the bridge. We already know where the location of a second bridge would go. We have the right-of-ways through the State Parks Department on the mainland side, and then we own fee simple the land on the island side. But there are some other considerations to the second bridge. If you are to, say you're coming off of the highway and you turn right off of the highway onto London Bridge Road, Mesquite, kind of at the in and out area, try and navigate that S-curve over there and then turn left to kind of get over to the start of this bridge. That's just going to be very awkward with an RV or a boat. So we're going to have to talk about some sort of an interchange from the highway on how you can get onto this bridge. So there's lots of components that have to be part of the bridge conversation. So that is underway now. The RFQ has been released to have someone come in and do that study so that we know where we're at with it. And then I do know that Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci and Representative Gillette, based out of Kingman, are working on some additional funding for a second bridge should all of that come to play. Is there any other?
So the RFQ went out, a request for qualification. So it went out this week, and that's basically soliciting bids from the private sector to come in and help us determine, meet the scope of the project. You can go on the city's website and take a look at it, and there's a lot of bullet points and what we're trying to ascertain as part of this study. One is to look at the demographics of as you alluded to, the demographics and future growth possibilities and those scenarios on the island for that generate business, residents, traffic, and what does that look like? And then also looking at as far as like the location, looking at alternatives to what that looks like. So what is our goal? Is the goal to lessen traffic back and forth? Is it to provide an emergency access off of the island if need be? So we're trying to look at things from all different angles and asking the consultant partner that we select to be creative in those regards. What are the impacts from a recreational standpoint and boating standpoint within the channel if a structure is constructed? So what does that look like? What are the aesthetic needs? Do you put up a steel bridge just down the road from the London Bridge, or what do you look like from an aesthetic perspective, and what that might look like if that was the direction that we went through? And one of the things that we think is paramount, because we talk about the concept, but it's hard for us to vision what that would actually look like from a pedestrian, from a motorist, and from a boating perspective. So we're asking for a lot of 3D models and electronic designs that we can look and rotate and see exactly what we're dealing with here. So again, thanks to our leadership at the legislature for the dollars. There was $200,000 that was earmarked as part of this. So we're trying to cram as much that we can into that scope to give the community and the council the best possible picture and our legislature the best possible picture of what this might or might not entail.
We have a big project that's going to be starting here in Lake Havasu City. You might not all recognize it when it occurs, but those that are impacted, it's big, and that's redoing the runway out at the airport. That's going to start in May, and the airport moved out to the highway where it's currently located about 30-some years ago. It used to be on the island, of course. Mr. McCulloch flew many of our families into the island to sell property, but it moved out to where its current location over 30 years ago, and that asphalt is in pretty bad condition. So when you redo an airport, you basically close down that airport for a period of about 45 days or so. And again, our airport is a huge economic driver for our community. There's a lot of things in commerce that occur through that airport. So if you're not a daily user or not out there, you might not always recognize the importance that the airport plays. But just a couple of things, Amazon packages, U.S. Postal Service, organ donors, All of those types of things use that airport on a daily basis. And also medical offices. We have full-on medical offices that fly in and out daily, the doctors and the nursing staff as well as the office staff. So they will relocate logistically through like the Kingman Airport or other airports during this process. We've worked with all of the stakeholders to pick a date that is the best. There's of course never a good date to close down an airport for that period of time. But it was determined that this would be the best time that would work for the contractors, because the contractors are concerned with heat and all of those types of things with their work crews. And then, of course, the users of the airport, they basically took the calendar on the demand that they see most folks coming in on top of the daily uses that we all experience.
Ken, Mayor, you mentioned heat, so that's an important aspect with the workers, but even more of an important aspect with the laying of the asphalt. So there are certain temperatures and conditions are needed when you lay asphalt down, and you can't do it in the heat of the summer. It's not a good product at the end of the day.
Yeah. So that project, again, it will last about 45 days or so out there at the airport. Most of the funding is coming through grant fundings through FAA and ADOT, which is fantastic. It'll be a really great addition once it's done. There's been a lot of work that's been happening at the airport just because of its age. So a lot of the taxiways have been redone. A lot of the other areas have already been redone from a safety standpoint, the lighting and such. And now the runway is going to be a great addition for the users of the airport going forward. We have another exciting project that we're going to be also doing, which is Site 6. Site 6 is an amazing area that citizens use to launch their boat. They go fishing there. They do a lot of things at Site 6. But if you've launched your boat there recently, you've realized how horrible that launch ramp is. So it's very slippery, it's very steep, and it also just falls off at the end. So when your trailer's going in, you just like fall off. And so all of that's going to be fixed. And so it is free, and it'll continue to be free for our citizens. But we were able to get some grants, and just I'll let you talk about the work and the scope and all of those types of things that we'll be doing out at Site 6.
Yeah, so some dollars that were tied to some SLIF funding. It's our day to thank the legislature and Senator Borelli, Representative Biasucci, and Representative Gillette. So we had 2 years of SLIF funding, which is the State Lake Improvement Fund. So it's all as motorists, right? We pay a gas tax. But what happens to the gas tax that we pay in when we put fuel into a boat, and we utilize the waterways as opposed to the highways? So SLIF funding brings those dollars back to invest back into things, amenities that are tied to water. And first year of SLIF funding, we were able to identify 2 new boats, one for police and one for fire. And this year we're looking at a project at Site 6. So that would be kind of redoing all of the ramp and lessening the incline for launching that ramp in that area. We wanted really to kind of extend it and even lessen the slope even and more so, but there's conversations that we're having with the Coast Guard and others. There's certain dates that we can do construction. There's so many rules and so many agencies that are tied to the waterway, including the Lower Colorado River. But in the end, I think we're going to be really happy with it. It'll be about a $1.2 million project is the budget. Able to utilize a little over, I think, $800,000, I think, in SLIF funding towards that effort, and really trying to do something nice in that area. And that, from what I've heard the last several years, is that ramp, it gets very slippery as well too. So it's not just the slope, but it's the slickness of that ramp. So when we hear those concerns, our public works crew, they're fantastic. They go out there and they're literally taking a grinder and they're grinding down the concrete so that they're able to get a little bit more of traction on that area. Well, how many times can you grind down concrete before you start seeing dirt? We're not there yet, but we need some improvements to take place in that area. So brand new ramp, a brand new launch at Site 6 that our residents can enjoy, and that's a really exciting project as we advance the ball. And those SLIF funding, so we just talked about a police boat, a fire boat, and these boats are 20 years old that we're replacing. Site 6, some really cool projects. Boy, if that SLIF funding could continue into future years, we could do some really good things in the channel and along the waterways. So I know the senator's listening, and we're grateful for all the efforts that they're doing in that regard too. There's legislation occurring right now that would permanently put into place SLIF funding, which would be a huge, huge deal for Lake Havasu City.
Yeah, so Jess talks about the SLIF funding for the last 2 years. That was after the legislature swept it all many, many years ago. So that's when Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci really fought to get that restored, and were able to restore it for the 2 years. But one of the biggest impacts that I see citizens kind of understand exactly the impact of SLIF funding is if you're a lake user at all, or have ever been on a boat, and you go up or down and you see the Arizona side, there's restrooms and camp facilities, and there's development. That's all done by SLIF money. Versus on the California side, there's literally nothing on that side at all. So that's the difference of having SLIF or not having SLIF. So we can continue to do some really good things. Some of the other things that they've done in Lake Havasu City over the years is in the channel, all of the seawalls and those types of things, that has all been SLIF funding historically. Public safety boats, all of those types of things have been very, very important additions to Lake Havasu City. And the SLIF funding, the actual mechanism of where the money is it's a formula based on the gas tax that is put into boats. And so Lake Havasu and other water-based communities in Arizona have really benefited from getting a return based on that formula to be able to help develop from a safety standpoint, but also a recreational use standpoint. So let's talk a little bit about legislative, and then we'll see if Senator Borelli wants to say hello, and then we'll welcome up Mark from Republic Services. But we have a few things that are moving forward. As I tell you every month, 90% of our job when the legislature is in session is pushing off additional regulation. So we're working on bills that are going to be regulating. Again, we have great leaders here in our district with Senator Borelli, Representative Biasucci, and Representative Gillette. They do really good work, and they're fighting the fight. We're just there to help support, to push those bad bills away from all of us. But we do have some bills that we proactively work on as well. One of them is this year is a transportation bill. It's a transportation bill for Greater Arizona, which is a funding to help fund road work throughout the community. Lake Havasu City's portion that's in this bill is about $10 million or so. Councilmember Campbell has been, she's the vice chair of the RTAC, which is the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council. She's testified in front of the Senate hearings twice over the last 2 weeks on this bill. It has advanced past all of the committees, and now it's going into the budget piece. So it's moving forward through the process. Once it gets to the budget, we'll see the next steps. But it's making its way. So that's good, and thank you, Councilmember Campbell, for your work on that.
If I can on that too, so that's important. So we've identified it's like $300+ million statewide for local road projects are in that bill. A really great investment to take place, and Havasu would benefit. Right now there's $10 million of road projects that are in there. Council during this last budget, when the budget was set forth, we talked about investing money into our roads in Lake Havasu City. At that time, we weren't really aware of what this bill might look like. So we took those projects that council directed to complete within the community, and identified those within that bill. So if we can get those projects that are done within that legislative action in 2543, then we're able to take those road dollars and invest into a second wave of investment within the roads within our community. So really looking forward to seeing that impact and the real life example of what we see within our community and improved roads. Highway 95, Lake Havasu Avenue is completing next week. $10 million from 2543 could take place. Another $10 million investment coming from the reserves, the general fund of Lake Havasu City. We're starting to make a pretty good dent into the road and infrastructure within the community.
Yeah, which is fantastic news. That's what we hear from all of our citizens is our roads. So it happens all the time. So we'll keep you posted on how that's going and move through. There's also another bill that is working through. It's mostly about zoning is kind of what the issue is. But is it under the guise of affordable housing? Is that?
Yeah, it was Kaiser put out a bill that failed, and then he brought back a bill and broke it into 3 parts. So it's under the guise of kind of like a housing or even affordable housing. and one of there are three bad bills, and one of them in particular is really bad. That's House Bill 2536. So basically, any zoning that takes place, if it's a zoning action that goes from anything from whatever degree to residential, no community meetings, no planning and zoning commission meetings, and no action by the council. They want those zonings to take place from an administrative perspective. So that's at City Hall from a staff perspective. So can you imagine that? We had a couple council meetings ago and a conversation that'll take place, I believe, in upcoming planning and zoning commission meeting about some multifamily housing. These are important conversations to have with the neighborhood, to have with the community, and they impact the way our community looks like moving forward. So take all that away from the in my mind, take it all away from the conversations that take place with the residents, with the P&Z, and with the council, and let's approve those from a staff perspective. That's not our role. That is not our role. So so that's one bill out there that just you start reading the language in these bills and your jaw drops and you start scratching your head, and that's certainly one of them.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really important. Obviously, we want to have community meetings. We want the community to be involved. All of our zoning issues that occur fill the council chambers by neighborhood residents, by interested parties, and so that's really an important tenet for us to have community input on any time that we do zoning. And when Jess talks about that it would be administrative through the staff, that would still be done through code. I mean, staff would make the decision based on what the code is, which is approved by your council. Yeah. But still, there's nuances to it, and we see that all the time with. I mean, just yesterday, Wednesday, planning and zoning did a conditional use permit for an area down on Swanson for a food court type thing. And there was 8 conditions that were put on that conditional use permit that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. That is important. That's important conversations to have with community on those conditions that are there. So we'll continue to push that away as best we can and continue to engage with our legislature on the reason why those things are important and to leave them alone. So that pretty much concludes our legislative priorities for right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's not just time of the year, and Senator can speak to that too. Where a lot of strikers and a lot of quick conversations that are taking place, and then soon the budget conversations occur. So it's a whirlwind of activity that's occurring out there right now.
Yeah. With that, let's Senator Borrelli, do you want to say hello?
Probably not.
Yeah.
He's a man of few words.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, this is a friendlier crowd than what's in Phoenix. Getting into the legislative process, you have a bill go through. You just don't just kill an idea. You want to try to keep it moving, see if there's compromise along the way. Remember, it's got to pass out of the Senate if it starts there, and then it goes to the House, and hopefully it survives there. And you can amend all along the way. You can amend it in committee. You can amend it on committee of the whole. Pass it out of the Senate, it goes over the House, and you can amend it over there and in committee or committee of the whole, or the whole thing dies. Or, for example, one bill just like completely died, so he decided, well, let me just break it down into several other bills that will be palatable to the cities. Now Senator Kaiser is trying to fix something in his area, so you want to be somewhat professional and courteous to see if we can fix something in his area and his concern. So, but everything's written on paper. It's not written in stone, so that means you can change it. But I also want to say that Havasu's landlocked. So you know what? The next big development's going to go on that island. So we know that's coming, right? I think some of that property over there is going to be state lands is going to be putting up for auction. So why would we want to wait 10, 15 years to do a bridge? Now, wouldn't you like to have 100% funding from the state for that bridge, or almost 100% funding? And you mentioned it, and I want to thank you for recognizing Representative Biasucci and myself. When was the last time you had 2 representatives that brought taxpayer dollars back to Havasu or this county? Yeah. Thank you. It's taken a lot of work. It's called teamwork. We got, obviously, you said Highway 95. We finally stopped the sweeps of SLIF, and we were able to get that grant program going on for state parks and other projects around here. SLIF funds take care of Site 6, we're also working on something for the sheriff's office, for the boat center down here, and this boat safety center down here, and of course, some other things for the sheriff's office that's dire need. But these are the kind of things that we're working on. So if you got the money coming, why would you not want that money to be spent and built the second bridge, which will take the stress off of an old antique? Now, a lot of us are getting old. I know I'm an antique getting there, but we would need to preserve, that, and not put all that stress on it, and have another bridge, so that way you actually improves emergency access. And there is a nexus in this. I mean, when I was on city council, when we purchased land on both sides of the chamber, on the channel, so that way to facilitate a bridge. So this has been a long-going project for a long time. Just finally, the state legislature finally has some money to do something with, and I'm glad that I got a partner, two partners in the legislature, Representative Biasucci and Representative Gillette. They helped me fight to get that. So Highway 95 was a long fight. Anyway, so these are the kind of things that we're working on. We're almost there. The governor's we finally got her to the table, which is good. She finally looked at the spreadsheet and went, "What is this?" And they had to walk her through it, because when she was in the Senate, she never saw a spreadsheet. So, anyway, so we're working on these things. It's a slow process. Sometimes it needs to be sped up, but thank God sometimes things are not too speedy. But that's the process. So we're working hard to bring that money here for the bridge and a bunch of other nice things that we're trying to get done throughout the county. So I'll take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
We don't have to deal with the Timberlabies or any of those people. I don't do that.
I know,
yeah,
the people at home do. Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
I'm an a cappella singer.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have to deal with the Chimawabes or those people in California. So we're going to benefit, because if anybody's ever driven on that road on the other side, they wouldn't even attempt it. It's like taking your life into your own hands.
Well, the bridge I'm talking about is the bridge
No, I'm
across the
talking
channel.
about if you're coming from California, you're going to make a loop to come across our bridge, because you don't want to take.
No, ma'am, no.
You know what I'm talking about? The road behind them.
Yeah, they're 95.
No,
yeah.
no,
It's like
yeah.
bullet chuckle.
No, I'm talking about the bridge in the channel, the second bridge in the channel, not going across to California. No, 'cause we need to we need to put a toll road on that, so they got to pay to come into Arizona. But that's a long time.
Hello. Hello. I'd
Yes,
just like
ma'am.
to make a point that to get over that antique, we go over a bridge that looks unlike the antique. So it's already there, one in the city. Another one is not going to be a bad deal.
Well, if there's a blockage on that bridge, you can't get emergency services over there. So simple as that.
Sonny, can you describe or maybe explain to the people that they do have a voice? When Jess made a great point on that one bill that's really bad, but you're going to knock out the public and just have city staff, but the right to speak. If you could just briefly just tell them what that's about, and how they could give thumbs up or thumbs down on any bill that's in the House.
Right. At the state legislature, we have a program. You have to go down there. You register in for the RTS system, request to speak. So you can actually make a comment on any bill. Either it's going to be in the committee or just in general. So, but forewarned, the other side of the aisle has kind of compromised that with their groups. They'll have one person sit there at that terminal all day long, logging in hundreds of people against our stuff. So, but we recognize our area. If you log in and say, I'm in support of the bill, I'm against the bill, a lot of times people don't, it's really hard to read some of that legislation because it's kind of wonky on how to understand the intent, the original intent of the bill. But yeah, you go down to the state capitol, driver's license, register in there, and this way you can, and then once you're registered in, anywhere at home, you can log in on your computer and forward us your comments. And we also, let me tell you, Leo and John Gillette and myself, we have a lot of conversations with our local partners, our city and our county officials, because that's that partnership and communication that we really need. So, and it's all about teamwork. We don't always agree on everything. If I agree with Cal on every 100%, we both would be wrong. So, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Senator. Wanted to ask you, was it $43 million that you got for Arizona Highway 95? And is that split between the Bullhead section and the Havasu section?
Great question. Not having all the numbers with me, I think we split that up. Bullhead gets a portion of that, and we do, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's been a while since I've seen those numbers.
And a related follow-up, since the bids were about 5 million under the state estimate, what happens to that money?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Always tell everybody, you see up my sleeve? Leo and I always have a plan, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Laney, we'll take Peggy's question, then we'll let the senator move on with his day.
It's not over till the curtain comes down, so.
Don't you think we should have the roads before we build the bridge? Doesn't it make sense to do the road construction? I mean, the biggest thing that I see with the growth in Havasu is not adequate roads. There's too many cars for the roads. Shouldn't the roads be there before we do anything else?
Excellent question. She just looked up my sleeve. That extra money that was not allocated or came under budget, that's money that we can use because there is a nexus, Highway 95, going to the bridge, which the nexus is state land. So that is money that can be used to fix that road to give access to that second bridge. Well, this is a long-term project. Hopefully the state does it right, not like someplace like some cities will pave the road and then 6 months later they tear up the middle of the road to put in a pipe. Like City of Prescott, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, we appreciate you. Yeah. So I've said it before, but Senator Borelli is a real gem for us. He does amazing work. He's gone to work for Lake Havasu City in his district every single day. Anything we need, he picks up the phone and he's there for us. He responds. He changes legislation. He makes things happen. From simple things to complex issues, he always is there. So thank you, Senator Borelli, for your leadership. We appreciate it. And Representative Biasucci, the same. He's been fantastic. And then our freshman Representative Gillette has proven to be a real source of assistance as well throughout this whole process. So very, very fortunate that our legislative district has those three gentlemen that represent us. So with that, let's introduce Mark Masterson with Republic Services. We're really happy to have Mark here with us today. He's going to talk a little bit about recycling and maybe give us an update on trash and take questions.
Hey, good morning, everybody. First of all, really happy to be here. Just want to talk a little bit about recycling in Lake Havasu. I've recently moved here from Montana, so I'm fairly new to the area, so thank you all for your hospitality. So about recycling. So just so everybody knows, we have about 30,100 recycle carts in Lake Havasu city limits. We operate roughly 7 to 8 trucks a day picking up recycling. We have between 2 and 3 roll-off trucks with trailers go to Nevada to our recycling facility every day. So we ship somewhere between 25 and 30 tons of recycling every day up north, which is quite a lot, right? So we have a very simple process. We have a separate cart for trash as we do your recycling, right? One thing, we have 4 to 5 ASLs, which are the same type of trucks that picks up your trash, pick up your recycling. They bring their recycling down to our yard off College. They dump it in our transfer site, which is basically concrete with some nets around it. And then we put them in compactors because recycling, as you all know, is quite a bit lighter than MSW. So to utilize the time and the efforts to take it to Vegas, we transfer them into compactors. So we're able to squeeze in, roughly 5 tons of load to ship north. So a couple things we're doing with recycling right now is in the city we have what's called single stream recycling. So you put everything into one container, right? So on the commercial side of things with the businesses, they have separate trash and cardboard recycling. Cardboard is a lot more needed out in the world. So there's actually, we can get some benefits back to us if we bring in clean cardboard that's not mixed in with your papers and plastics and other things. So we're going to expand that transfer station. We've just ordered about $30,000 worth of netting from a local vendor to extend that out. So we're going to start having a segregated area for clean cardboard. The main reason I'm here today, though, is A, is thank you all for your business, but B is we need your help. Unfortunately, as great of a community this is, we have about a 60 to 65% contamination rate on our recycling. So for every 5 tons we send up north, 3 tons ends up getting landfilled. So what we're asking for is your help, is how we can help educate the community, right? It's really important to us that you know what you throw. So what we're going to start doing is working with the city, the chamber. Our territory executive, Nikki Nickel, and I are going to start doing some videos. I kind of have a face for radio, so we'll leave the videos to her. But we're going to start trying to educate everybody on what that looks like. There has been a little bit of contention that possibly we landfill a lot of recycling, and I've heard it from the mayor, the council. I can tell you that is absolutely not true. Now, out of 100 loads of recycling, we might have to landfill 1. And I can tell you the last 3 ones we had to landfill recycling load. 1 caught on fire because somebody put a propane tank in it, and we literally had to dump the load out on the city street. So obviously we had to landfill that. Another one within the last month is one of our trucks had a hydraulic leak, and it put about 50 gallons worth of hydraulic oil into the recycling. So do we landfill recycling? We do it in 2 ways. We do it when the contamination rate up at the MRF, right? Because they have to sort it. If it's contaminated, it's going to go to the landfill in Las Vegas. The only time we landfill that here is if we have what could be potentially a catastrophic failure, be in a truck or a fire. I would invite anybody. I have a ton of cards. You can call the office. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about how our recycling process works, I would love to give you all a tour of what we do. I think you all would be amazed to go to our transfer site and to see the contamination. It is very important to our company. We have, we're nationwide. We have 40,000 employees. We have about 170 business units throughout the country. Sustainability is the key, right? In so many levels, and doing the right thing is what we live on. So I'm absolutely open for any suggestions on what we can do to help. I think the videos are going to be a nice start. And then another thing I want to touch on before we turn it over to questions is Hazardous Waste Day. I don't know if y'all have been a part of that. So actually I just met with Jess and the mayor last week, and we are going to start working on, no promises yet this year, but
I'm hearing a promise.
we're good. So we're going to extend that to twice a year.
2 times.
Which will be very beneficial. Just moving here, I was actually not in town. I was still in Montana when it took place. And from what I heard and saw with pictures, I mean, it's like somebody trying to get into a concert to get into the Hazardous Waste Day. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to work together and try to find a second day that works
That's awesome.
for everybody. And we're going to continue to be good stewards of the community, and we just really appreciate our customers and the relationship we have with the city and everybody in it. So any comments on how we can make things better would certainly be appreciated.
And can we go to questions? I think that to reiterate kind of what you said a little bit there, Mark, and appreciate your partnership. Brand new to the community and just really off to a fantastic start in terms of our interactions and problem solving and so forth. So those rumors are out there, right, in the community about that our recyclables are contaminated. They throw it away in a landfill anyway. No need to recycle. So what does that do? Then more people put the trash in the recycling container and just build this problem. What Mark's telling you is that they're trying to recycle, but they need the community support. And if you put trash in the recycling container, you're not just contaminating your container, you're contaminating the entire neighborhood's recycling efforts. Recycling, great thing for the environment. Reuse and our products that we buy after with recycled products are cheaper. That's a great thing. Less product going into our local landfill extends the life of our landfill. That's a huge deal. When that closes, that's a lot of expense. That's tied to that as well too. So, and when he talks about there's a demand for cardboard and things of that nature, Mark, that helps offset the cost of trash recycling pickup, which then keeps our rates low in Havasu. So, lots of reasons to recycle, including the environment, but our back pockets as well too. So I wanted to throw that out there.
I'd also like to add that when we send a load of recycling to get processed, we pay our company, we pay $102 for every ton we send up. Okay, $102. So we're spending a little over $3,000 a day roughly, right? So we get a credit back of $20 when it's pretty clean. It gets to a certain point we get no credit, right? Now with clean cardboard, which is something that we really want to start doing better here from our seat and as a community, we actually get $60 back, 62. So if we can all learn together to do the right thing, not only, financially is one thing, but doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do is more important. Right, Republic Services is opening a new polymer plant in Vegas off of our landfill, which is the first one in the country that will be able to recycle colored plastics and integrate all that together. As soon as this one opens in late fall, they're putting one in Indianapolis. So what's really great is we'll be able to utilize all of that polymer plant here because we transfer our stuff up to their MRF. So we're going to be a part of this first world-class polymer plant, and we're really excited about it. Hopefully we'll be able to do some tours late fall, but the big thing I want to stress is, we want to help wherever we can get that out. We're gonna start hitting some schools up. I mean, recycling when I grew up in the 80s, 70s wasn't a big deal, right? But as as the landfills fill up and as the world changes, it's extremely important that not only us, but we're good role models for our kids and our grandkids, and to keep this place clean. I mean, Lake Havasu City is beautiful. Just so you all know, I moved here. I've been asking to move here for 3 years, and so this is home for my wife and I, and we plan on retiring here. But anyway, thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so one of the goals here today that we're trying to address is to not throw garbage into your recycling containers. So that's really what we're trying to do. Black lid is trash. When that container is full, do not start putting the trash into the blue lid. Lift up the blue lid and you can read what is recycled there. Our carts are all new enough. We can do better, Lake Havasu, so let's do that and not get our trash put back into the landfill. So with that, Vice Mayor, if you want to take the microphone around. Yes, thank you.
I have related to recycle. I sort of remember something vaguely in my mind about plastic bags. Is there a way that we can put those in the recycle bin in another big bag?
So that's a great question, and the answer is not yet.
Okay.
Once the polymer thing gets going, that's something we might be able to integrate then. But as of right now, that type of stuff, especially the stuff with any kind of food residue in it, is all trash.
So they can go to the markets. My other question is related to shredded paper. Did I read somewhere that I can put that into a plastic bag and put that in the recycle bin, or is that wrong? Oh,
no,
okay.
it has to. You can put it in a paper bag.
Paper
but
bag.
You can't put it in a plastic because that would just contaminate the shredded paper.
Paper bag, that makes sense. So it can go in a closed paper bag into the recycle.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the follow-up to Kathy, I think the point might have been missed. So you can take your used shopping bags back to the grocery stores or the market. With the paper shreds, if you don't put it into that bag, when you put it in there and the truck lifts it up and it's a windy day, it's going to go in your neighborhood. So just be careful of that as well. So, yes.
I just have a comment, really. Older folks have a little harder time figuring out what goes into those containers. Honestly, I've stood there many, many times, and I asked my husband, do I do this or do I do that? So if you can have that video out, help me. That would
Absolutely.
really be
Act-
appreciated.
So 2 p.m. Monday, they're going to film Nikki and myself. That'll be the first of a series just to try to help educate. But that's a great question. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to call the office and we can help you through that too. But those videos should be coming out within a week.
And that hazardous material, is there any way that on a particular day at particular hours, we can set it out by the curb and you all pick it up? Question.
So the hazardous side of things, we have to bring a third party in to help facilitate that and help us sort it and get it disposed in the proper way. So the hazardous side of stuff, the curbside really isn't practical. But that's why we're going to extend this to two times a year. There is some battery recycling places in town. Home Depot, I think, has one. I'm sorry? Yeah, so there are some battery recycle areas now that you can take the little stuff too, but the bigger stuff has to be during the hazardous waste event that we're going to.
We got a question back here.
We are on microphone.
First off, welcome. Thank you for being here. And I love that you're here educating because on Facebook, I think I directed some stuff to Nikki that was misinformation. But I would like to let you know that RTAC, which is the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council, along with the help of ADOT, is coming together and changing their scope of work a little bit to try and get those millings for milling roads out of your landfills as well. So I look forward to the collaboration and this new education that we'll be doing moving forward because there's no reason for us to use recycled asphalt millings and end it up in your landfills because do you get quite a few of them at this point or not so
Not
so
a
much?
significant amount, but any amounts enough to divert out to use other. I've used a lot of that stuff for help gravel roads clean up. And so, I mean, there's a lot of beneficial stuff for that other than going in the landfill.
And we were really happy that Fan Construction stepped up and they donated, 1,000 tons of millings to Mojave County. We were transferring some to La Paz, but as long as we keep the education going, thank you for being here and thank you for teaching everybody because I don't think most people understand when we're just throwing stuff into recycling. But thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm taking these in order around the room.
Thank you.
Good morning. Question to you. I've got two parts, one for the mayor, one for you. If a person has a large amount of cardboard, is there a place at the station where we can bring it?
That's a great question. Yes, is the answer. We do have some roll-off containers that are split up into 4 areas. Once we get the netting up on I guess it would be the north side of our yard, it's going to be about a 20 by 40 area. You could bring all the cardboard you want in, and there'll be all the room you need because we haul it every day. But yes, the short answer is yes. The better answer is we're going to be able to facilitate even more. It's probably going to take 60 days by the time the netting gets here. We got to put in the posts and extend it. But it's a great question, and yes, absolutely.
Okay. Second part, now that we're getting our new road, hopefully, what can we do as a city to try and improve the drive to the landfill with uncovered loads, where our center divider looks like a city dump to begin with half the time?
Yes. Great question. So the Republic Services, it does require the loads to be covered. And so I believe when they get to the landfill, if it's not covered, there's...
So yes, there is a TARP fee. Now I'm not going to, I've been here 6 months, so I'm not going to sit here and say that's been enforced religiously. We get a lot of pushback on people. We do have good support from the city. But to your point on the trash, I can tell you that we have a full-time litter picker, and all that person does for 40 hours a week is pick up trash in that vicinity by the airport. I don't even think I've told Jess or the mayor yet. We actually hired a second one this week because, again, I haven't been here long, but the winds are pretty crazy, so I don't know if this is normal or, but there's trash all over. I was in McDonald's the other day, and it looked like I was in our landfill. Not inside, but just due to all the trash from their garbage blowing, right? So the trash around the city is not just from the landfill. I want to make sure in the years that the landfill has been ran. There's never been one NOV from ADQ. So we're following all the protocol, but that's not to say we can't be better. And that's why we actually doubled our litter picker force up. And honestly, in prior cities, we had some opportunities to work with the city and the county on some, whether it was like an inmate release or people that needed, through the city or county, needed some vocational skills. We use those people to get them out back in the community, and that's something I would be happily to have that conversation with too, because it's not a glamorous job. It's hot, it stinks, it's cold, or however you want to look at it, but it has to be done. So we're doubling down on our end to do our part to keep the land. Unfortunately, when you're dumping, we dump about 400 tons a day, 375 to 400 tons a day at the landfill, at the Lake City landfill. That's kind of where we're at. And with the winds we got, even though we segregate our tipping floor to about the size of this room to try to manage the wind and the issues that come with it. But we can't catch everything, so that's why we have to go out with the litter pickers and try to get that picked up. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so you alluded to it, I think a lot of that is that within the city contract, and we've asked for public services and done a really good job of it, but more is better, right, is that tarp, that if you come to the landfill, you don't have a tarp, and it's pretty apparent that your half of your trash was on the road to the landfill, there should be a fine or a fee associated with that once you get there. It's a careful balance, right, because if the fee is too high, then they're going to stop coming to the landfill, and they're going to start unloading, unfortunately, in some extreme cases, out in the desert areas. So it's a little bit of a balance. The other side of that is anytime you see somebody that works for ADOT, tell them we need 95 picked up, because every time I see them, that's what I'm saying. So they have different labor crews that come out and pick up trash all along 95. That's their road, and they need to maintain it, and that's the conversation that I have. So if you can repeat that conversation to them, that'd be fantastic.
Who enforces that? I mean, is that our city police or is that an ADOT?
Yeah, so as far as the trash at the landfill,
The question is
Republic
who enforces
Services,
that?
yeah.
People coming and going and not covering their load.
Republic Services does, because they're the ones that sees the load come through. If it's noticed or someone turns them in, then either local PD or the DPS will. Also, Representative Biasucci is trying to work on money across that culvert. So you go across that culvert and you bounce, and everyone's garbage comes out. So he's working on money for that as well. So that's another component. You see a lot of trash right in that area. It's unfortunate because on the 26th of March, we had a citywide cleanup. So deserts, lakes, roadways, everything. It looked great until just that next week. I mean, it was full again. So it's a full-time job. It's something we're all working on in partnership with Republic Services, with ADOT, and then the city kind of pushing some things forward. So, yeah.
You mentioned clean cardboard. I don't know a lot of people are aware of. Isn't there 2 or 3 bins across the street that anybody
Here at
can
City Hall.
drop theirs? So like if you're moving in that, the large can go over there. And you mentioned briefly, referred to there's a few drop-off places for smaller items like batteries. Where are they in town?
So I know of Home Depot. You can take batteries. I'm not sure about Lowe's, and then you have another one.
Those as well, too. They also take fluorescent bulbs. Yeah.
A bunch of related transportation questions. Starting with a comment is, I hope you can increase the parking downtown. And will the Highway 95 work start at Sarah Park and go north, or will it start at the freeway and come south?
Yeah. So when it comes to 95, I don't think that's been determined yet on which way it's going to start.
Yep.
But we'll work with, once the contract is signed and done, then we'll work with stakeholders and the contractor to find out what's the best way to do that.
Yeah, they haven't even entered into it. They haven't even picked the contractor yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Are we taking general questions or still trash related?
Yeah, let's wrap up the trash questions and then we'll take general. Do you have a?
Okay.
Hey, Sandy,
Okay,
let's
we
get
gotta-
you on a microphone.
You got to be on a microphone. You got to be on a microphone.
There's people watching at home, and they're like, "What is happening in there? They've lost control." So those at home, yes, yeah. Those at home, we're still here. We're in control. Yeah.
You mentioned about driving over to Bumpy Bridge and trash plan out. I thought it was a law that you had to cover your load. Why doesn't the city put a cop out on that roadway going to the dumps and start citing those people that drive around there with uncovered loads? Not all the time, periodically.
Yeah.
And so they catch the people that are losing the trash. Pretty soon they'll start covering it.
Yeah, no, good point. One of the things that we're doing is we're talking about it today. So hopefully folks will take note and understand how their behaviors are impacting other citizens in our community. And we always try to do it through education, but that's a good suggestion as well.
This is just a suggestion for your annual cleanup. Maybe put in your paperwork that some of the neighbors get together, like we have a dually, and, you know, be neighborly and one truck go from the side of the street instead of all 5 of us go. You could put that in the literature that it's going to happen. Be a little bit more neighborly, save fuel, and you don't have to sit in that line for 10 hours.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Let's do that. Neighborly, change.
Well, and hopefully with increasing it to 2 cleanups a year, eventually we'll be able to work through a lot of people's additional stuff. So, well, thank you, Mark. Thank you for your partnership.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for being here. Yes. All right, we'll go ahead and take some questions from citizens. Before we do, though, I do want to introduce, we have Vice Mayor David Lane with us. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for being here. We have Councilmember Nancy Campbell. Thank you for being here. Councilmember Cameron Moses is here as well. Welcome. All right, Vice Mayor Lane will take the microphone around and we'll take questions.
I got a question about the Arizona Memorial. I've brought it up several times before. You say, "Oh, it's already done deal." Nobody's broke ground. Why doesn't the city put a design out to the citizens of the city? Let them have a contest. What this memorial should look like and where it should be. You're putting right now, you got this in 3 or 4 guys' hands that had it 5 years, they ain't done nothing. Let the citizens decide where to put it and what it should look like. Make it a contest. You got something that's going to be for 100 years. And 3 guys are going to decide it that's in their 70s, 80s, or 90s or whatever. Let the people decide where to put it and what it should look like.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So what this gentleman's talking about is the Arizona Memorial from USS Arizona. It's a relic from Pearl Harbor of the USS Arizona. And they, Marine Corps League Detachment 757 was fortunate enough to be able to get ownership of it or control of the relic. And they're working on putting it in an area to display so we can have a memorial here in Lake Havasu City for that. They are working through that process. They're working in conjunction with the Parks and Recreation Department. They're working in conjunction with Jess and myself. And we will have folks in presentations that come before. But we don't actually control the relic. I know you've been involved in some conversations. I don't believe you're involved anymore in those conversations. So I don't know why all those things have went down that way. But it's not ours to be able to have a competition for. It's owned or controlled by the Marine Corps League. So if anyone has any suggestions, I would recommend you reach out to the Marine Corps League.
Back to transportation. What would it take for the city to build a second runway so that when one has to be worked on, the other one can still be open? And what would it take for the city to install a bypass road from Chenoweth out to Highway 95, up over the mountains at the end of the airport runway?
Yeah, so when it comes to the runway, we have one allocated runway based on the use that we have. Most of our airport is funded through the FAA. There's not the land to do that or the ability to do a second runway out there. As far as the bypass going from Chenoweth around our community, it was in ADOT's 20-year plan several years ago to have a bypass. It would basically go around the Lowe's area and kind of up and around into the Cherry Tree development. ADOT took that off of their long-range plan. I don't really know the history of that. I don't know if you do, Jess, long before us that they did that, but it's not in their plan to do right now. So some of the areas that we're working on is with what we do have control of. We know we have Highway 95. We know it's very burdensome with the way the traffic lights and signals work. We know it's very burdensome the way that the traffic lights work in conjunction with the city streets that are adjacent to it. So our Lake Havasu Metropolitan Planning Organization is working on the scope to be able to synchronize those so that they can talk to each other, so that if you have a green light, say turning left off of Highway 95 onto Mesquite, there's just a small section there that you also would have a green light to continue to traverse through the intersection at Lake Havasu Avenue and be able to flow the traffic better in those areas using technology, because we can control that and we understand that. It's a long process. That's going to be about 18 more months. But once that is all done, we can then put that synchronization in place, which will make the highway more efficient to be able to get you through the community going forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
2 questions. Please give me an update on the concrete removal underneath the London Bridge. And the other question is Mesquite and Swanson going to be repaved this year?
So the questions are the bridge, underneath the bridge, we wanted to redo the concrete underneath there.
Still do.
Yeah, we still want to make it happen, and we're looking to try and get that done. May's the last time frame I heard. I don't know if you've had an update, Jess, on if that's still what we're looking towards?
Yeah, we've had some conversations and trying to be creative with that scope, try to drive down that cost of that project and as close to our budget as possible. So that's the delay. We were hoping to do it back in January, and weren't able to do that just based on budget and costs. But we have some other solutions that we're having a conversation with, including maybe some of the city taking on some of the demo and some of those aspects to just try to drive down that cost and make it affordable for our taxpayers. So yeah, we're really hoping it's going to take place here in next month and before the summer months, and that's really our hope to do that before the end of the fiscal year and the summer months. Doing whatever we can to try to make that occur.
And then Mesquite in Lake Havasu Avenue, you're talking in front of Terrible Herbst or CVS?
Well, Swanson.
Oh, Swanson, the other side, in front of.
Swanson up from McDonald's all the way up to.
Oh, okay.
Smoke Tree, and then Smoke Tree from the 95 coming up to McCullough. But of course, with the fiber optics people doing their thing, the new company, Smoke Tree now is getting to be Patchwork City, which currently was currently in pretty good shape from elementary school up. Well, now it's starting to get patched up from cutting up and putting their fiber optics, which has to be done. But I was wondering if Swanson, which is one of our worst roads, and everybody been complaining about, is it scheduled for this year, and is Smoke Tree scheduled for this year?
I'm glad I asked for clarification because we just went all over town there for a second. But but the answer is in front of McDonald's on Swanson, no, that's not planned for this year. It is a roadway that has a lot of crack sealing. It's visually obvious when you drive that roadway. It's on our radar, but it's not for this year. When it comes to the road work or the patchwork that's occurring from contractors that are doing work within our community, some of them do, I think it's called a hot patch or a
cold patch
cold
first
patch.
for a temporary situation, and then the hot mix is the permanent solution.
Yeah, so they'll come back. So right now it might be a patch job that's not very well done throughout the community, but they'll come back with a crew and come back and fix those all appropriate. I know in front of my house, I live on a corner, and they are like opening and closing the road like every single day, and so they're doing that cold patch daily. So eventually they'll come back and do it the correct way.
I think in terms of you identified the need for investment into our roads in Havasu. That's my takeaway, and the takeaway that we have already at the city. We really want to see what that House Bill 2543, the bill that we're working through in terms of through our TAC and the efforts that Councilmember Campbell's working on, and Vice Mayor Lane worked on previously. So that's a big deal, and as soon as we know what that looks like, that's going to help us kind of open the door to say go. But we've identified a lot of streets. when we look at what streets we're gonna improve, it's road conditions. With those testing we can do to see what the condition of that road is, and traffic counts. So we look, and so a lot of the streets that you identified are in poor condition and they receive a lot of traffic. So that would obviously push them to the top, towards the top of the list.
Good morning again, gentlemen. In the conversation of the second bridge, have any other solutions been proposed, a little more visionary, like perhaps a channel?
Yeah, no, great question. Yes, that has. We actually talked to Elon Musk's company, the Boring Company. They're doing something very similar in Las Vegas right now between the convention center and the south part of the convention center and the north part of the convention center with a tunnel or a tunnel system that they run cars underneath.
A tunnel under the channel.
Yeah, there's the tunnel. Yeah, so it's a tunnel in Vegas. Yeah, and they're putting one through. They're also now extending it out to the Strip. So we worked with them, and actually Representative Biasucci was the one that brought that company forward, and we'd met with them, and it wasn't as feasible as cost effective for one, and then two, the amount of lead time they needed. How would you
So
explain
we
that?
started looking at the existing cost, and it was about 18 plus months ago, right?
Yeah.
We had some of these conversations, looked at the numbers. We got pretty excited because initially some of those costs with regards to tunneling made a lot of sense, and it was going to be less than the cost of the structure of a bridge. We said, okay, great, let's dive in, let's get more information. And they said, oh, by the way, just the cost to bring that large boring machine to Havasu was $12 million on top of what we told you before. So we said, oh, okay, well, that makes a difference.
Yeah. So yeah, we're looking at all sorts of options though.
Are you able to give us an update on how the Allo Communications project is moving along?
Yes, so Allo Communications announced that they would bring fiber to the home and business in Lake Havasu City. We were actually the first Arizona city that they announced. They're doing work all over. I don't think you can drive one road without seeing an Allo truck. But they ran into a hurdle with some permitting to do the middle miles, so basically off of I-40 into the community. They've been able to work through that. We helped work with them at the state level to be able to get the approvals they needed from the state land department. But we've had some challenges with the new administration. All of the agency directors change out. That happens fairly regularly. So we had some issues with leadership there. We've been able to solve those, bring that together. But they are moving forward and are in a good spot. They'll be opening up their retail office very, very soon. It's on McCulloch, where citizens can go in and talk to them about the services that they offer. But they're just getting a little bit closer to when they'll be able to light up certain areas of the community. Eventually, the entire community will have it, but we'll open up in phases of about 6,000 rooftops or so at a time. You're welcome. All right. Yeah, Peggy, we'll take Peggy's question, and then we'll be running up against the clock of the end, but we'll be here to answer any questions afterwards. So the microphone's coming your way, Peggy.
I live on El Dorado, and there's a wash behind me, and it's like utilities use it, and cable companies. It's really overrun with weeds, and it kind of concerns me for a fire issue. Who actually owns that property? Is that city property or is that private property?
It's actually federal property.
Federal property.
Yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers. They're actually wash beds for the removal of water, so it's federal property.
But it's not water. It's like a really big thing for a fire hazard because there's so many dead weeds back there.
Peggy, we'll take a close look at it. We do work within the washes within the community, make improvements, and if areas that sometimes you'll find a mattress or some trash back there too. Certainly weeds that you're concerned about with for fire hazard, we can take a close look at that. So you're off behind El Dorado? Okay, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, as we always do, we'll end with some fun facts within the city. I would like to give a big thank you to Steve in the audio-visual room, allowing this to be televised, and also Jerry Brachmani. Thank you so much. Today is a holiday, and as such, the city is off. But they came in to be able to help support our efforts so that we can keep our commitment to doing this on the first Friday. So thank you so much. And I also saw Bill, who's a friendly volunteer that's been around, sneak out. Good to see you, Bill. Thank you for being here. Yes. And Chief Sterling as well. Yes, thank you so much for being a part of this. Our next one will be Friday, May 5th. We'll be here again in this room. So Friday, May 5th will be the next coffee with the mayor and city manager. A couple of fun facts that we have, some from the police department. In 2022, we had 45,992 calls for service through the police department.
45,000.
Yeah, 45,000. We had 1,725 911 calls, and there were 302 people arrested for DUI. We had Steve, actually, Community Affairs does throwback pictures on Facebook, so if you don't follow us on Facebook, please do. In 2022, the most viewed went to an old photo of dredging under the London Bridge, which got 283,866 views, 2,300 reactions, and 306 comments. So a couple of fun facts, and we appreciate everything that the city is doing. Thank you so much for engaging with us. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you on May 5th. Have a good day.
Thank you.